There is a particular kind of exhaustion that no one ever talks about honestly. It is not the tiredness that comes from working too many hours or sleeping too little. It is something deeper, something that lives underneath your daily routine, like a low and constant hum you have almost learned to ignore. You wake up, you follow your schedule, you respond to what life demands of you, and somewhere between the alarm clock and the pillow at night, you catch yourself wondering how you ended up here, right? Living in a way that feels like it was designed by someone else entirely. Maybe you made the choices that were expected of you. Maybe you followed the path that seemed safe or logical or reasonable. Maybe you built the life that others told you would make you happy, and now you stand inside it feeling like a stranger looking through a window at yourself. That feeling is not a malfunction. That feeling is not depression or ingratitude or weakness. That feeling is a philosophical signal, at one of the most important signals a human being can receive, and almost no one in your life has ever given you the language to understand what it means or what to do with it. The truth that changes everything, the truth that Sartre spent his life fighting to make visible, is this: you are not who you think you are. Not because you are confused or lost or broken, but because there is no fixed version of you waiting to be discovered. There is no essential self buried beneath your habits and fears and obligations. There is only what you choose, what you do, and what you become through the accumulation of those choices. This is the most terrifying and the most liberating idea in the history of human thought, and the moment you genuinely absorb it, not intellectually but in your bones, your entire relationship with your own life shifts in a way that cannot be undone. Most people live their entire lives without ever confronting this. Most people find comfort in the belief that they are somehow predetermined, that their personality is fixed, that their fate is written, that they were born a certain way, and that way is what they are. Sartre looked at that belief and called it what it is, a form of cowardice dressed up as identity. And Jean-Paul Sartre was born in Paris in 1905 and spent his life developing a philosophy that refused every comfortable illusion available to him. He lived through 2 world wars, occupation, resistance, the collapse of empires, and the birth of new ideologies. And through all of it, he maintained one central conviction that made him impossible to dismiss and impossible to fully ignore: existence precedes essence. That phrase sounds abstract until you understand what it actually means for your daily life. In the traditional view of the world, whether religious or cultural or psychological, a human being has a nature, a purpose, a soul, a personality type, a destiny. Something comes first that defines what you are, and then you exist in accordance with that definition. Sartre inverted this completely. He said that you exist first, that you arrive in the world with no predetermined nature, no fixed purpose, no essential self waiting to be fulfilled, and that everything you are is the result of choices you have made and continue to make every single day. You are not discovering yourself. You are creating yourself. And the difference between those two ideas is the difference between a life lived in reaction and a life lived in full ownership. Think about the way you explain yourself to other people and to yourself. Think about how many times you have said things like, "I am not the kind of person who does that," or "I cannot help it. This is just who I am," or "I was raised this way, so this is how I see things." These phrases feel like honesty. They feel like self-awareness. Sartre would say they are something else entirely. He would say they are examples of what he called bad faith, which is the act of pretending that your choices are not choices, that your life is happening to you rather than being created by you, that you are bound by forces outside your control, when in truth you are always, in every moment, making a choice. Bad faith is the art of lying to yourself in a way that feels like truth. It is telling yourself that your unhappiness is inevitable, that your limitations are permanent, that the life you have is the only life available to you. And the reason bad faith is so seductive is that it removes the weight of responsibility. If you are who you are because of factors beyond your control, then you cannot be held accountable for the shape of your existence. But Sartre says that relief is an illusion, and accepting it comes at an enormous cost. Here, I want to pause and speak to you directly for a moment, because I think something is happening inside you as you listen to this. I think some part of you recognizes what we are talking about. Maybe you have been carrying a version of this feeling for years, the sense that the life you are living is not entirely yours, that somewhere along the way you made an agreement you do not remember signing, and now you are honoring it every day without knowing why. If that is where you are right now, I want you to know that you are not alone in it, and more importantly, you are not stuck in it. Yes, you drop a comment below and write exactly this. I am ready to own my life, not because it is a ritual or a performance, but because writing it here, in public, even to strangers, is a small act of claiming something true. And if someone else reads your comment and feels less alone in what they are carrying, then your few words will have done something real. The comment section of a video like this is one of the rare places on the internet where something genuine can happen between people who are each quietly fighting the same invisible battle. The concept of radical freedom in Sartre is not a motivational idea. It is not the kind of freedom that self-help books sell you. The idea that you can manifest a better life by thinking positively or setting intentions. Sartre's freedom is brutal, total, and inescapable. He said that we are condemned to be free, and that word condemned was chosen with complete precision. You did not ask to be free. You did not choose to be born into a world where every moment demands a response, where even refusing to choose is itself a choice. Freedom in the Sartrean sense is not a gift. It is the fundamental condition of your existence, and you cannot escape it no matter how convincingly you perform the belief that you can. And every person who tells you that they had no choice was making a choice. Every person who says they were forced into a life they did not want was selecting at each moment the path of least resistance over the path of greatest authenticity. This is not a judgment. Sartre was not interested in condemning people for being human. He was interested in making them see what they were actually doing, because he believed that clarity, even painful clarity, was more honest and ultimately more kind than any comfortable lie. Now, here is where Sartre becomes truly unsettling, even for people who think they have understood him. The freedom he describes does not come with instructions. It does not come with a map or a moral framework handed down from outside. When you accept that there is no fixed human nature, no divine plan, no objective purpose written into the fabric of the universe, you also have to accept that there is no external authority that can tell you who you should be or how you should live. You are thrown into existence, to use his exact language, without a manual. And the experience of standing in front of that absolute openness, of recognizing that you must create your values rather than simply inherit them, of feeling the full weight of the fact that you are the author of your own meaning. That experience is what Sartre called anguish. Not anxiety in the clinical sense, but anguish in the philosophical sense. The specific vertigo of realizing that nothing is holding you in place except the choices you keep making. Most people spend their entire lives running from that anguish. They fill the silence with noise, the emptiness with obligations, the freedom with routines that feel like necessity. Sartre would say that the person who runs is not a coward. He would say they are simply someone who has not yet found the courage to stop. There is one more dimension of Sartre's thought that rarely gets discussed in popular treatments of existentialism, and it reframes everything we have covered in a way that matters enormously for how you actually live. Sartre believed that you cannot define yourself in isolation. The other people in your life are not merely characters in your story. They are beings with their own radical freedom, and their gaze, the way they see you and interpret you and categorize you, exerts a real force on your sense of self. He described this in a famous phrase, "Hell is other people." That line is almost always misunderstood as misanthropy, as a cynical dismissal of human relationships. What Sartre actually meant was far more precise and far more interesting. He meant that the moment another person looks at you, they are creating an interpretation of you that you cannot fully control. And you have the constant temptation to collapse into their version of you, rather than continuing the difficult work of creating yourself. The person who lives entirely through others' eyes, who shapes every choice around being seen in a particular way, is living in the deepest form of bad faith available. They have outsourced their existence to external approval, and in doing so, they have abandoned the only thing that makes them genuinely human, their freedom. What Sartre offers at the end of all of this is not comfort. He is not the philosopher you go to when you want to feel better about staying where you are. He is the philosopher you go to when you are finally ready to stop pretending that the life you have settled for is the life you actually chose. He is the philosopher of that precise and painful moment when you look at the person you have become and ask honestly whether that person was built from genuine decisions or from the accumulated weight of expectations, fears, and compromises. And the answer to that question, whatever it is, leads to the only thing Sartre ever really wanted for the people who engage seriously with his ideas: a life that is yours. Not perfect, not easy, not free from anguish or loss or failure, but yours. In the deepest possible sense, because you have stopped running from the responsibility of authoring it and started facing that responsibility with open eyes and the kind of courage that does not announce itself, but simply acts. If something in this conversation landed for you, if something here cracked something open or put language to something you have been feeling without words, then give this video a like. Not as a reflex or a habit, but because the algorithm responds to that signal. And when it does, this video reaches someone else who is lying awake at 3 in the morning, feeling exactly what you felt when you first pressed play. Your like is not a small thing. It is a quiet vote for the kind of content that treats people as capable of depth, as deserving of ideas that do not condescend or simplify, but actually challenge and expand. And if you want to keep going, or if you want to keep sitting with these ideas and letting them do their work on the way you see yourself in the world, then subscribe to this channel. Every video here is made for the person who is tired of surfaces, who is hungry for something real, who suspects that the right idea at the right moment can genuinely change the direction of a life. This channel exists for you, not for the person you are performing for others, but for the one who is listening right now, quietly. In the space where you are most honest with yourself, come back. There is more to discover, and the next idea might be the one that finally changes everything.